lot of people, the most interesting thing about me is that I'm a doctor that makes cakes. But today I'm going to tell you that the most interesting thing about me is that I do not quit on myself and I do not give up. If you want to have a successful business, you need to remove the word quitting from your dictionary. You cannot be successful if at every given sad time or downtime in your business, you're thinking of giving up. So, my journey, my journey did not start as a baker or, let me see, like an entrepreneur. My journey started at the age of 14, I believe, when I was in secondary school, and I had to help the hairdresser in the boarding house, assisted her making weaves for students. I didn't collect any money from her, obviously, because the school was paying her like in bulk and all that. But I just did it out of fun and out of always saying, I can do this, I can do this, even though at the time I really wasn't good at it. But by the time I had graduated from secondary school at the age of 16, I had gotten good at plaiting hair. And when I left Nigeria at the age of 17 to go to medical school in Hungary, an opportunity came. So this opportunity was, I was in a group of friends, and then one person, her name is Chinelo, and she was like, I'm looking for who can braid my hair. This was back in 2009, and Hungary then wasn't as popular as it is now for studies, so we're very few Nigerian students. So that day she was like, oh, that she's looking for someone that can braid her hair for her, and I was like, yeah, I think I can do it, let me try. So I saw an opportunity at that moment. I wasn't looking for money. I wasn't looking for business, as you may say. But at that moment, I also wanted to do something with my hands. And that was, I think, September of 2009. And since then, I can't even count how many people's heads are beautified over a period of 7 years in medical school. So that was my first business. And I called it Bell Artistry by Dedun. Okay, that's quite funny because forming that name was another story entirely. So that was my first business. I was hairdresser in Debrecen, Hungary at the time. And there was a time I was making hair for someone, and she was like, before she even came to Hungary, she had known about me, Dr. Dumola. So before I was being called Dedun, my quick name was Dumola, because my full name is Ade Dumola. So she was like, they already knew about me from Nigeria before they even got to Hungary, as the lady that if you need anything, just call her, she'll probably solve it for you. So by 2011, I moved into a new apartment. And this apartment had like baking tools, pan, the basic things, a pan, hand mixer, and the regular oven. So apartments in Hungary were already furnished. All you had to do was just move in, pay a caution fee and your rent, and you'll be settled in. So at that moment, I was like, okay, this looks interesting. Let me Google on YouTube recipes just to try something. I wasn't doing it to learn how to bake or anything. I also wanted to try something since I had the tools in the house at that moment. So that was how I got into baking, just for the fun of it. And from my hair business, someone came to my house in April 2012 rather, and she smelled like cake, and she was like, oh, Dad, did you just bake a cake? I was like, yeah, that I just tried making cupcakes for myself. And she was like, oh, please, can I just order one? I was like, I'm not selling cakes. So like, yeah, but I'm going to pay money, spend money rather, to buy ingredients. So she was like, she would pay me the ingredients money just to bake her a cake. And that was April 19th of 2012. So that started Dedun's Cakes. Mind you, I already had hair business. I already had a food business because I used to bring a lot of Nigerian ingredients to school. And because we're in Hungary that, you really cannot eat their food like as a proper Nigerian. You have to look for how to source out how to buy certain ingredients. So most people used to import it from Austria then. But I brought mine anytime I came home and I, went back to school. So I started cooking. I started cooking for the fun of it because I had loads of ingredients, and that was how I started my food business, catering business. So I had two businesses. I was in my third year of medical school. And by third year, things get more hectic in terms of clinicals and all that. So there was no way I had planned to include cakes in my daily struggles. But once I got that money, I was like, there's an opportunity here again. So why don't I just advertise this on Facebook that you can send me your quick cake orders when I have time, I'll get it done. Then I was in welfare of my church, a fellowship in Hungary. So I volunteered to make the like monthly celebrant cakes. So that way people got to taste my cakes for free. And it was quite interesting because even though looking back now, those cakes were not that nice, but at least it got me out there in terms of people trusting me with their money to order cakes. So I wrote here challenges of running a student business. Eventually became for business like by the end of my medical year because I added makeup. Yeah. So I just wrote here because I've gotten a couple of questions from people that are currently in school, maybe now that the ASU strike is still on, and they ask me what were my challenges as a student entrepreneur. So I have here 5 points about my challenges running a student business, running student businesses. So the first point I have here is that it's very cumbersome to handle alone. I don't think I would advise, even though I did it, and I did it because I did not have a social life, I don't think I would advise that you combine a lot of things in different fields at a time. There's this saying that people used to say to me a lot that jack of all trades, master of none. Anytime they said it to me, I always frowned because I felt it didn't apply to me. But eventually, when I had to focus on Dedun's cakes, I realized that that saying is actually true. I got more clarity in the skill set I wanted to develop further, and it helped grow that particular business. So it's very cumbersome to handle alone, but it is possible. It's going to distract you from your regular schoolwork and your studying time. It's a bad idea if you cannot multitask and plan ahead of time. And be ready to sacrifice your social life, like I said, and you have to work twice as hard in school. So I also wrote here how to combine your work with businesses. So if you have like a 9 to 5, my number one task that I do is to plan ahead of time. It has really helped me a lot of times because I can be a procrastinator too. So plan ahead meticulously, start with one business and try to avoid time clashing activities. And if funds are available, excuse me, if funds are available, hire and outsource. So back to my story, I moved back in 2017 against all advices because people thought I was crazy to move back to Nigeria. But I did it anyway because I've always been a stubborn goal-getter. So when I moved back to Nigeria, my family stayed in Abeokuta, so I didn't have anyone to stay with in Lagos. But because I had a vision for my business, by this time I decided, I'm going to focus on just the cakes because it brought me more joy. And I had a vision for my business, and I realized that my target market was not in Abeokuta. But then, how do I get to Lagos, the big apple of Nigeria? So I was in Abeokuta for I think about 7 months. I tried, but most times they were like friends, and it was very, very scanty. I wasn't enjoying it. And also at the same time, I had to write the medical exam. It was just a lot going on at that moment. Sorry, please, can I have my glass of water? Thank you. Thanks. Sorry, excuse me. All right. So one day I sat my mom down and I told her that I need to move to Lagos. I didn't have a medical job, so it made it easier for me to make that decision to move to Lagos. And she was like, where am I going to stay? She asked me like the serious questions, and I told her I'm going to get a place. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm ready to move to Lagos and grow my business. So by August 2017, and which is very important for you to have as a business person, you need a very strong support system that even when you think you're like trying to do a very crazy idea, somebody is there just saying, okay, just do it. whatever it is that the outcome gives you, we're going to be here together. And that person for me was my mom. So I rented a flat in Surulere. Sorry, I have really So I rented a flat out in Surulere, and for 1 year, while I was, job hunting for house job, for 1 full year I was jobless. But I had the business to start. So I think that actually helped me to look for any means necessary to grow. Because one, I needed cash flow. Now I'm like independent woman in Lagos, so I needed money to come in any way possible. So there was this thing I was doing in Hungary then, which was cake jazz. And I said, okay, it's not yet popular in Nigeria. Let me start it, even if it has like a lower profit margin and all that. Let me just start it to get my business name out there and eventually get people to come to my side and say, okay, I need to order your cake. So that was when I launched Cake Jazz in August of 2017. And funny enough, do you know, I was selling 3 cake jars in very expensive jars, by the way, for 2,500 naira. And I was very crazy, yes, but I had a motive and I had a plan for the business. So at that point in time, it wasn't about me earning so much money and trying to, break the bank and be like, oh, I've arrived in Lagos. So I started with the cake jars, and by the grace of God, it blew. I was delivering to universities outside of Lagos because they will now buy in bulk and then share delivery rates between themselves. So it blew, and before you know it, I started getting customers for cakes. Christmas came, then Valentine. Thank you, Jesus, for Valentine, because I believe it's a very important peak period for all of us in the industry. So eventually, I'm here now as a 10-year-old business. Thank you. Okay, so I also wrote here that for me, what inspires me daily to keep on grinding, to keep on going ahead of the business, is that I really love when my customers come back and say, Dedun, thank you, I loved my cake. Whatever it is that went on behind the scenes to achieve that comment, that is where the satisfaction really comes from. So whether it was you had to repeat the baking because something happened while you were stacking and all that, the customer doesn't need to know that. The fact that the customer comes back and they tell you, I loved my cake, is enough motivation for you to go back, repeat, and improve the quality of your service. The most important thing for me as a business owner right now in Nigeria is my number one priority as a business owner is to provide excellent customer service. And this thing is quite passionate for me because last month, like I said, my business was closed and it was my 30th birthday. So I couldn't bake a cake for myself like I had planned. I had to contact other cake business owners. And from my personal page bio, you will see that I wrote Dedun's Cakes there. So it's not like I'm hiding that I'm a baker. But from my experience as a customer, I was quite disappointed. And I'm someone that, because I'm very passionate about customer service, I had to register my displeasure. Because why am I messaging you and I'm not getting a response after 24 hours? I reminded you with hello, question mark. You read it. You still did not respond. And in your bio, you have best cakes in Lagos. That doesn't tally. And I had to tell her eventually when she replied me. I said, if you have something written in your bio, you have to adhere to it. Because that's probably the first thing that will attract a customer to buy from you before they scroll down on your profile page to look at your product. So number one, priority for me as a business owner is to provide excellent customer service. Then secondly is to provide excellent quality baked products. But one thing for sure is, if you can provide excellent customer service to your customers, you are going to have a very high retention rate, regardless of what happened with your product. It could have been a delivery mishap, but the way you handled it, the way you handled that customer is going to determine if they come back, regardless of your errors. So I also have here 12 lessons that I've learned over time as an entrepreneur. So the number one here is an important question to ask yourself is why? What is your motive behind starting a business? Is it solely for money? If it's solely for money, then you are doing it the wrong way. And like Mrs. Ogunjimi said, you need to have a mission, a vision, and your core value. It's very important. Like even a layman's company or maybe a printing press, they always have that. So that doesn't exempt you just because you're baking from home or just because you're baking as a hobby to start with. You need to know your why, because your why is the reason why even when things go left, you have something pushing you forward to keep on with that business, with that activity that you're doing. Number two, you have to experiment a lot before you can realize your specific and special skill sets. It will interest you that it took me 9 years to get to the point of calling myself a buttercream professional. And I've been using buttercream like since the beginning of my cake journey, but it wasn't until I sat down, I experimented with certain things, I created a buttercream book, and then I had the confidence to say, I am now a buttercream pro. And aside from that, I started to focus clearly on this thing I'm calling myself as a pro, and then create a niche for myself in advertising buttercream wedding cakes. It's not popular yet in our client because of the hot weather, outdoor activities, and all that, but I can still guarantee you that if I'm going to deliver a buttercream product to you, it's going to be in perfect condition. Why? Because I have mastered the skill. Thank you. Number three, never be afraid to be authentically you in a field of same or business as usual. And this also brings me back to me creating a niche for myself in the baking industry and say, I'm going to be a buttercream pro. So never be afraid to go out of the norm. If being out of the norm means you're creating a particular product for a particular market segment, like they've explained to us in the panel session, you have to do it. You have to find a way to stand out. Because all of us here, we're bakers. If you have 10 customers, how exactly is everyone going to get those 10 customers? That's going to be very difficult. But because one person somewhere stands out, then they will eventually, divide. And before you know it, you actually have a niche. So you have to find a way to stand out. It might be difficult, it might take you a while, but eventually, because you have a vision, you will get there. Number 4, I wrote here that excellent customer service is the real gold to unlock customer retention, followed by excellent product quality. Number 5, consistent reinvention, adapting quickly, then you repeat. I've had to adapt our menu a million times because when you have a data record of your business, which is why they've also said bookkeeping is very important. You can go back, see what sold more in a particular month. Maybe a month is too small. You can do a 6-month analysis of your data. See what exactly your customers love buying from you, what sold less, what brought in more profit, and what brought in lesser profit margin, even if that item sold more. But you can't know all this if you don't have a data for your business. So one particular moment, I think in March, I went back to our data for 2021, and I realized that cookies weren't selling as much. Maybe I'll sell 4 packs in like 2 weeks, but it just did not make sense to keep on doing it. Also because I wasn't advertising it as much. But even when I started advertising it as much, it still wasn't picking up. So I was like, what's the point? Because I have to stock up on the boxes and all these things, packaging, labels. Till now, I probably still have like hundreds of cookie stickers, but I mean, that's probably one of the losses I have to incur. But I had to make that decision and say, you know what, I'm removing cookies from our menu. That is me going back to the drawing board to re-strategize, to reinvent, and to adapt a new system. But then removing something doesn't mean you just close that chapter. You can find a way to bring it back. And I kind of brought it back as brownie cookies. So there's cookies with brownie, so you're kind of enjoying 2 things. So you just have to find a way to make things more interesting that your customers will keep on coming back to say, okay, I've not tried that before, let me try that now. But if you see that something isn't selling as much, don't waste your resources trying to sell it. You can still come back to it maybe after another 6 months if you get like higher demand for it. But for starters, find something else to focus on. Look at your data. Is a 6-inch whipped cream cake selling faster? Then find a way to even sell it like is there anything like more faster? But to sell it like more and higher than you have sold it. But you won't do that if you don't have data for your business. Number six, I was very happy that a lot of people said it today, and that is don't burn out. You only have one body. I'm a workaholic, and sometimes I get like 12 a.m., not because I couldn't have planned my day better, but because I'm trying to do a lot in one day before I sleep. I like to sleep a lot too, so I rather do everything I have to do before I sleep, because if you have to wake me up by 6, I'll probably not answer you. So don't burn out. I've burned out a lot of times that I don't know, like my mom will probably have to call me, Shoti John Lenny, because I probably would not eat. Like, it's just terrible how much work we put into our business for very little pay. And this is another thing I say when I'm teaching pricing strategies for small businesses, bakery businesses. You have to have a business that can pay you as if you're working for somebody else. Otherwise, you're just suffering. And that's why you will go back and be like, my business doesn't have any money. Because you've not put in certain strategies in place to make sure that your business is making that much money as you should at the level you are in at that moment. Please note what I said, at the level you are in. So if you're just starting out, I don't think there's a reason you should pay yourself 100K, because you've probably not gotten the skills. Like, imagine if you're hiring someone that is doing your role right now, and with 100K, all they can do is slice the cakes. They can't even stack it. They can't even put fillings. They can't even frost it. Why would you pay that person 100K? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So even if you're the owner of the business, try to be very honest with yourself on the kind of salary you can pay yourself. I also started paying myself, well, while I was in school, I wasn't paying myself. My money, business money, they were kind of together because they used to pay us in cash. Transfers weren't a thing, so I used to have my money in cash. So it was very easy to spend it. But when I moved back to Nigeria, I had to start paying myself a salary, and I was paying myself 40,000 naira. I paid myself 40,000 until 2020, after the pandemic, when I now structured my business. So yeah, where was I? About don't burn out, to make sure that you have a strategy in place to also pay yourself as you would a regular staff. And rest, definitely. And somebody mentioned about the time structure. It was Beams. She said the time structure. I had to also do it. And even till now, when I get, because I'm also signed into the account and my virtual assistant is also signed in, we can get a message like 8 o'clock. And then I start seeing responses like somebody's replying back. And I'll buzz, I'll be like, Olive, we are closed. Like, it doesn't cost me anything. You are doing it. Yeah, I'm paying you. I'm not paying you extra at 8 p.m. But I had to message her. Because if you do it now, somebody else will come. And then before you know it, the structure you put in your bio is no longer relevant, because you will still answer anyway. So I had to, put that time in structure so that I could separate myself from my business once the business is closed. Number 7, your business is beyond you. The product is not about you entirely, and the reviews are not about you. Don't be emotionally attached to the good and the bad days. Think fast on the bad days and rise again. Celebrate the good days and move on to work for better days. So there's a story, something happened to me, or not to me, to the business last year, November, we had the biggest contract in my 5 years in Nigeria, and we had to supply cake fillings for a company. So this is me. I've been doing this thing on a small scale, maybe when bakers need fillings, we'll sell, and also for the bakery. So this is me now finally doing it on a mass scale. I do not have any experience with mass production, but I took this order because I would let that kind of opportunity go. Then it was going good. We started so early. I had planned everything out, month by month. It was going to take us about 2 months to finish production, because we're a small business taking a large scale order. Then by November, so random. God, it was so random. I entered the production room, and then I took a jar, and I opened it, and it had molded. This is one jar out of about 600 something jars that we had completed. So that day, it was supposed to be packing day into the carton so that we can now take it into the storage. So the way I had planned the production was we used 1 week for production, and packing, and then by the next week, we'll put them in the storage, like the ice cold rooms or what they call them. And the day we're packing, I just said, let me open one. And it was so random because we had packed one before, there was no issue. That was the white chocolate. This one was like the milk and dark chocolate combined. And it had molded. In fact, I thought I was seeing double. No, no, trust me. 650 jars were already done. I don't know how I did it, but I really could not panic. I also had to call my other two staff, like, please start opening these jars one by one, one by one. And the only ones that were okay were the ones that we had just recently done, like 2 days prior. But the ones we had done like 4 days, 5 days prior, they were gone. I lost over 2 million naira because we had to redo them from scratch. So you can imagine me standing there, carrying big drums, removing what we had just finished, scraping everything. Oh, no, no, no. The memory is still very painful. But I did not panic. The old me, the old business person, I was still crying my eyes out. Like, I can't even explain to you the kind of calmness I had that day. I was like, you know what? Let's just sort this out right now. Let me look for another company I can buy chocolate from. I called the company I bought this chocolate from. The woman was just telling me, no, it is from you. It is your fault. It's your error. I was, till today, I was even thinking, myself was saying, we'll go there, we'll go. I was like, I don't have that energy again. What has happened has happened. They're not going to refund me the amount I've lost. So I had to accept that as one of those business losses that you're going to encounter, regardless of how perfect your processes are and everything. So all you have to do is, whatever it is that happens on a bad day, yeah, soak it in, accept it, but you need to move on from it. You need to find a way to rectify the issue as soon as possible. I've had delivery mishaps too. In fact, as recent as April, I was delivering a wedding cake. Before I even left the bakery area, Ikeja, as I made a U-turn, I just said, bah, ma, the cake has fallen. Hey! And guess what? We're already running late. From Ikeja to Lekki, phase 1, on a Saturday. As recent as April. And it's funny because that cake is on my page now. I even used it to do real tutorials. I don't know. Sorry, I've not said this story. Like, so I'm actually trying to also soak it in again. But at that moment, what was I supposed to do? Park the car and start sobbing? No, I was like, you know what, just enter the boot, hold it. Let's find our way back to the bakery. I walked like, what's the fastest animal? I walked so fast, I had to now tell. And also, there was something I used to do. I used to be very, very brutally honest to clients. So whatever it is I'm going through at that moment, I will tell you, thinking you will understand. But what you're doing is, you're creating panic and anxiety for that client. So even if you're feeling a certain way about a bad situation, don't transmit it to your customer. Find a way to reassure them that everything is fine. Even if everything is not fine and you don't really know how to solve it. But they have to be calm. Because if they are not calm, your panic that you're already feeling is going to be tripled. So at that moment, I just quickly buzzed the client that, sorry, we are running late. We're trying to cut the cake cutout. Because she gave us last minute, actually. She added it like a day before the event, but we had done it. But I just had to use that as the reason for our lateness. Not knowing that was you turning my way back to the bakery to go and fix a broken wedding cake. So you have to think fast on your feet when you have bad days. They will come. Even the most skilled persons always have bad days. Eventually, like no matter how planned your week is, how structured your business is, there will always be bad days. But you have to subtract your emotions from it. Your business is no longer about you. It's about the customer. Number 8, be open-minded about opportunities. Say no at the right time and don't miss out on the yes opportunities. I had to say a lot of no's, especially to fondant cakes. It's really stressful for me, I won't lie to you. But I can do it. But I've had to say no, regardless of how much the money is. When I can try to calculate, this Friday, do I really want to invest? I'm really sorry, like, I've had to say no. Until I can get somebody that is like a fondant staff. But if you think you can do it, then do it. But there are certain opportunities that are probably not even right for your business. But because for you, you're thinking more about the money, they are going to take it and you're going to fail at it, and then they're not going to recommend you to the next person. So you need to know what your strong skill sets are and say no to those things that will make you look weak as a brand and as a business person. Number 9, success is an overall outlook at a journey. It is not a long streak of achievements, but an accumulation of small wins over a period of time. Success is not a bus stop, it is the bus itself. You do not alight when you've achieved your goal or your stop. You continue driving, you continue to persevere, you continue to reinvent rather. You continue to be a better version of the last success. You don't just stop because now you have 10,000 followers, sales are coming in without even you posting. You're still going to post, you're still going to market, you're still going to find ways to increase from that particular level. As far as you have the mindset of increase, your business is going to grow. Number 10, give yourself a break and don't overpressure yourself if things aren't right at any given time. Step back and re-strategize. I think I've said it a number of times today already. Number 11, having a great support system is paramount. I did not have any angel investor. I did not have any free money given to me. I came back to Nigeria with, I think, 400K, and then I had to borrow my brother 100,000 that he never returned. So I had, I think, about 300K left. But the good thing I had done was one of my summer breaks, I came home. So I had bought fabricated oven for 40K. And then I went to Akwongo and I bought a 7-liter mixer for 90K. That was then. So I had those in place already. This is me. I didn't even know I was moving back to Nigeria. I just bought it because I was coming back home for a 6 weeks practice. And knowing me, I carry my cake business anywhere I go. So, yeah, that happened. What's it called? I didn't have any extra money anywhere. I just had to put in what I had at that moment. And Lewa also said it. You don't need to have $1 million in your bank account. Once you understand that this is the direction you want to go, once you've answered my first question of why, and you know that this is the vision for your business, then start from where you are. Start small. Start from your community. Start from who you have around you. And that was how I was able to grow my business. I was able to market to my friends. My friends buy my business as if, patronize my business as if they are strangers. They pay in full. I don't give unnecessary discounts if I don't have to. So, what's it called? Start from where you are. And over time, you're going to realize that there has been a growth span from that beginning point to where you eventually get to. What's it called? So number 12, I said invest in yourself and your team's skill sets. Mrs. Ogujimi also mentioned it about training. When I started hiring, my business actually grew like exponentially in 2020, thanks to the pandemic, because I was living in the bakery at the time. So I was able to bake and sell unfrosted cake loaves. And people were, that was the time that most people were online, so it was very easy to market. And for the fact that they were cake loaves that weren't frosted, I could easily use bike to deliver. It was actually quite surprising how the business blew. I was like, how can I miss out on this one? I opened business sharply before even lockdown ended. And from there, it has been like upwards, because eventually I had to realize that, okay, now that I'm getting this amount of customers, I need to be able to hire somebody. So that was when I first got the virtual assistant taking orders, because I could no longer focus on social media orders and all that. And what's it called? If you can, summary of everything I'm saying is, if you can jump on an opportunity and you're also self-aware that as you're taking this opportunity, you have to find a way to also increase your capacity as a business, then increasing your capacity will eventually lead to you growing your business. I think it's actually a very straightforward pathway once you can realize the things that you need to do along the way. Okay, so I've said all this about my business, and I'm sure you're probably still wondering, what am I doing with medicine? I quit clinical medicine, quite all right, and that stems from my experience working in the hospitals. I just did not enjoy it. It felt like I was on a borrowed time. Looking at, okay, I should be at work now. Okay, by 4, yeah, let me close. Before your consult will say, where are you going to, Dr. Lu? You still have a patient that is not stable. And then you're there till 6, 7 sometimes. Like there was literally low life. And I just felt like they were sucking it out of me. So that's why I had to, put my foot down and say, you know what, after NYSC, I am actually done with clinical medicine. However, I think I started gearing towards the decision by my 5th year of medical school. But will I now quit in 5th year? No. I had to finish the degree. So by the time I had graduated, I decided to do a master's. And it was because of my businesses that I could afford to pay myself for my master's. Because Lewa also said, saving is very important. I'm not a flashy person. I don't buy things that I don't need. I'm a very, very comfortable fashionista. If you see me wearing boo to work, that's my comfort zone. Like today, I'm dressed up because I have to come and stand in front of you today. But I don't spend money unnecessarily. And also, I am very particular about business money. If you ask me to borrow you money, if I'm going to borrow you, it's for my personal purse. I'm not going to borrow you for my business money because what? That money is not my money. So if you can be disciplined enough, even if you're seeing 2 million in your balance and you're happy that you've arrived, that is still not your money because your business is going to suffer for it. So you have to learn how to save business money. And if you think like you're a very quick, like finger transfer this today, buy credit today, then send it to Piggyvest, for example, and just lock it in. But you have to find a way to cultivate a savings culture for yourself and your business. All right, so I'm still very much in the career-oriented space. I'm into health tech, and I also have a company in that line, but eventually I'll explain that further maybe on my personal page. But yeah, I'm not just a baker. I'm a medical doctor by degree. I stand by that and I own it with my full chest. But at the same time, I really love the big business of baking. And I really love talking to people about it, about my journey, even though I've gotten shy over like a couple of years that I haven't spoken about it. But I'm really happy that Jade brought me out to share my story to everyone. And I really hope that you learned 1 or 2 things from me today and it wasn't a waste after all. Thank you so much.